Hello everyone and welcome to vEgyan Ghar's YouTube channel. Today we shall discuss the 2020 TIFR GS paper. TIFR GS is a nationwide entrance exam conducted by Tata Institute of Fundamental Research for admissions in postgraduate courses offered by it. The paper has 4 sections with 15 questions each. The sections are General Science, Physics, Chemistry and Biology. In this video, we shall discuss the general science and physics sections of the paper. Here is the general science section. First question. Who among the following has been leading a campaign on climate change? A. Greta Thunberg, B. PV Sindhu, C. Michelle Obama, or D. Malala Yousafzai? Greta Thunberg is a Swedish environmentalist and activist who is internationally known for challenging the world leaders to take immediate action against climate change. So the correct answer is option A. Pick the odd one out. A. Speed of light and vacuum. B. Charge of the electron. C. Diameter of the earth. Or D. Gravitational constant. Of these, the speed of light and vacuum, charge of the electron and gravitational constant remain the same no matter where they are measured from. The speed of light and vacuum is given as 3 into 10 raised to 8 meter per second. Charge of electron is 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulombs and gravitational constant is 6.673 into 10 raised to minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square. Now, when we talk about the diameter of the earth, at the equator it is about 12,756 kilometers, while at the poles it is about 12,714 kilometers. So, the odd one out is the diameter of the earth. So, the correct option is answer C. The Earth's diameter measured across the equatorial plane is about 40 km more than that measured between the poles. This is because of A. Excess ocean water at the equator, B. The rotation of the Earth, C. Freezing of water at Earth's poles, or D. The moon's gravitational pull. Now, we know that the Earth isn't a perfect sphere. It is rotating rapidly. So this causes the equator to bulge out. So the equatorial diameter of the Earth is higher than the polar diameter and measures about 12,756 kilometers. So the correct answer is B. We are given two plant species. Species A has large white colored flowers with copious amounts of nectar, while species B has dull green colored flowers with no nectar. Which of the following is true? A. Species A is more fit than species B. B. Species B is more fit than species A. C. Both species are equally fit. Or D. We cannot conclude anything about fitness from the given data. Now, fitness involves the ability of organisms or populations or sometimes species to survive and reproduce in the environment in which they find themselves. The consequence of this survival and reproduction is that these organisms can contribute their genes to the further generations. From this given data, we cannot conclude which of these two species is fitter. So, we cannot deduce the fitness of the species from this data. So, the correct option is D. In bacteria, glucose is absorbed via the cell surface and is used to synthesize ATP. The ATP, in turn, powers the process throughout the cell volume. Based on this alone, which of the following types of cells would you expect to have the slowest growth rate? A. Short rods, which are cylinders of length 2 micrometers and diameter 1 micrometer. B. Long rods, which are cylinders of length 4 micrometers and diameter 1 micrometer. C. Small cocci, which are spheres of diameter 1 micrometer. Or D. Large cocci, which are spheres of diameter 4 micrometer. Absorption depends upon the surface area. Higher the surface area, lower is the absorption rate, and so lower or slowest is the growth rate. So out of these, whichever has the highest surface area will have the slowest growth rate. Now for surface areas, for cylinders, the surface area is given as 2 pi rl plus 2 pi r squared, where r stands for radius and L stands for length. When we calculate the surface area, we get 2.5 pi for short rods and 4.5 pi for long rods. For cocci, which are spheres, the total surface area is given by 4 pi r square. The area for small cocci is 1 pi and that for large cocci is 16 pi. So out of the four options, option D has the largest surface area and therefore will have the slowest growth rate. So the correct answer is option D. Giant squids have the largest eyes of any animal. This suggests A. Giant squids use binocular vision. B. Giant squids spend time in low light environments. C. Giant squid can focus on very distant objects. Or D. All of the above. Bigger eyes let the squid collect more light. This extra light lets the squid detect small contrast differences in the ocean depths. This ability is critical for the squid, who are big themselves and about the size of adult men and whose predators are also big. So the correct option is B. 50 leaves were clipped from a plant. Priya and Gautam separately measured the areas and distances from the apical tip of all the leaves. The students plotted their values on separate graphs, with y-axis showed the distance and x-axis showed the lead area. After fitting these graphs to straight lines, they found the following. Priya's graph showed the slope of 0.8 and correlation coefficient of 0.99. Gautam's graph showed the slope of 1 and correlation coefficient of 0.90. You are now provided the distance of the leaf from the apical tip of the same plant and asked to predict the area of the leaf using this information. Whose graph would you use? A. Priya's, B. Gautam's, C. Either would be equally good, or D. Neither, since the leaf area is independent variable. The value of correlation coefficient indicates the strength of linear relationship. The value of slope does not do this. The slope interpretation tells you the change in the response for 1 unit increase in the predictor. Correlation does not have this kind of interpretation. A correlation greater than 0.8 is generally described as a strong correlation, whereas a correlation less than 0.5 is generally described as weak. Priya's graph has a higher correlation coefficient. Thus, we refer to her graph and not Gautam's. So the correct answer is option A. With which of the following do you associate the term qubits? A. Black holes, B. Quantum computers, C. Whole genome sequencing, or D. Sea level rise. In quantum computing, a qubit or a quantum bit is the basic unit of quantum information. It is the quantum version of the classic binary bit, physically realized with two-state device. So in a classical system, a bit would have to be in one state or the other. So the correct answer is option B. Many species of ants lay chemical trails when they search for food. Once one ant discovers food and returns to the colony, other ants will follow its trail back to the food source. Once the food runs out, ants abandon the trail and begin to search for new food sources. For this process, ants should use signal molecules with which of the following properties? A. Species-specific chemical with half-life of 1 day. B. Common chemical with half-life of 1 day. C. Species-specific chemical with half-life of 1 hour. Or D. Common chemical with half-life of 1 hour. The trail chemical must be species-specific to prevent competition for food. This ant chemical trail or pheromone is used to mark food sources and decays quickly within the matter of minutes. So it has to have a short half-life. This is because the food sources change often and the ants must be able to take advantage of food sources whenever they find them. So the correct answer is option C. Which of the following statements about the function fx is equal to x squared minus 3x plus 4 is true? A. The function does not intersect the x-axis. B. The function does not intersect the y-axis. C. The function has two real roots. Or D. The function has one real and one imaginary root. Now, if we look at function x as y and put x is equal to 0, then even when x is 0, y still exists. So, we can say that it won't intersect the x-axis. So, the correct answer is option A. Which of the following is false? Neanderthals and Homo sapiens coexisted. Neanderthal and Homo sapiens mated. Some living humans have Neanderthal ancestors. Or D. All living humans have Neanderthal ancestors. We know that Neanderthals were thought to have died around 500 years after the first modern humans arrived. So they coexisted with Homo sapiens. They have contributed approximately 1 to 4% of the genomes of non-American modern humans. Although a modern human who lived about 40,000 years ago has been found to have between 6 to 9% of Neanderthal DNA. Thus, we can say that they mated with the modern humans, and some humans living today have Neanderthal ancestors. The percentage of Neanderthal DNA in modern humans is 0 or close to 0 in people from African populations and is about 1 to 2% in people of Europe or Asian background. Therefore, we can conclusively say that all living humans do not have Neanderthal ancestors. So the correct answer is option D. I drove my car over a bunch of nails. I estimate there's a 10% chance that at any given tire is punctured. I have only one spare tire. The probability that I will be able to drive on safely after changing a tire if necessary is A. 95%, B. 90%, C. 66%, or D. 60%. The probability that one tire will get punctured out of 4 is 10%, which is 10 by 100. So when we multiply these two probabilities, that is 1 by 4 into 10 by 100, we get about 97%. The closest answer is 95%. So the correct answer is option A. A 2005 report of the World Health Organization shows the effect of malnutrition on the mortality of children admitted to hospitals for various diseases. Which of the following conclusions is supported by data in the graph? A. Meningitis is the most common illness among this group. B. Malnutrition correlates with increased mortality among this group. C. Most children admitted to hospitals were malnourished. Or D. Most children admitted to the hospitals suffered from multiple diseases. Now, when we look at this graph, we can see that very severe malnutrition for all these various diseases shows the highest mortality. So this is very severe malnutrition in case of malaria, in case of cerebral malaria, meningitis, pneumonia, gastroenteritis, and all the diseases. So very severe malnutrition shows the highest mortality. So malnourishment is correlated with mortality. So the correct answer is option B. Malnourishment correlates with increased mortality amongst this group. Now we move on to the physics section of the paper. For a spherical water droplet at sea level, which of the following is true about the internal pressure? A. Lower than atmospheric pressure and depends on surface tension. B. Lower than atmospheric pressure and independent of surface tension. C. Higher than atmospheric pressure and depends upon the surface tension. Or D. Higher than atmospheric pressure and independent of surface tension. If we let the atmospheric pressure be P0 or PO, that is the pressure outside the drop, for a spherical droplet, we can calculate the pressure as pressure inside the droplet minus pressure outside is equal to 2 into surface tension divided by the radius of the droplet. From this formula, we can see that the pressure inside is higher than the pressure outside and is dependent on surface tension. So the correct answer is C. A box of mass m slides along a wooden floor. The contact area between the box and the floor is A. Which of these statements is true about frictional force? A. It doubles if A doubles while m is kept the same. B. It doubles if m doubles while A is kept the same. C. It does not change if A doubles and m decreases by half. Or D. It does not change if both A and m doubles. Now, the force is independent of the contact area and does not change no matter how fast the two objects are moving. So, it will not change with the change in area. As the mass increases, the kinetic friction increases. This is also because the normal force increases as the mass increases. So, the correct answer is option B. A ball is falling through a viscous fluid at its terminal velocity. The magnitudes of forces acting on the ball are gravitational force Fg, drag force Fd, and buoyant force Fb. Which of the following conditions is true? A. Fg plus Fb plus Fd is equal to 0. B. Fg plus Fb is equal to Fd. C. Fg minus Fb is equal to Fd. Or D. Fg plus Fb is equal to 2Fd. When a spherical body falls through a fluid, it attains a constant velocity which is termed as terminal velocity. This velocity is achieved at equilibrium. For terminal velocity, the drag force is equal to the weight of the object. Since the ball is falling through a viscous fluid, the apparent weight of the ball is given as gravitational force Fg minus the buoyant force of the liquid that is pushing it upwards, that is Fb. So, Fd is equal to Fg minus Fb. So the correct option is C. A protein can exist in two conformational states A and B with energies minus E and plus E respectively. Assume the system, that is single protein, is in thermal equilibrium with heat bath at temperature T. The average energy in the infinite temperature case are respectively given by A. E and minus E, B. Infinity and 0, C. E and minus 2E, or D. 0 and minus E. Absolute hot is a concept of temperature that postulates the existence of a highest attainable temperature of matter, which is infinite temperature. This is the temperature at which entropy is minimized and classical thermal energy is zero. So, at infinite temperature, energy is zero. As we go to lower temperatures, the energy further decreases till it becomes negative at 0 degrees. So, the correct answer is option D. Here's the next question. Four discharged capacitors C1, C2, C3 and C4 are connected as shown in the figure. A potential difference is applied between the points X and Y and the system is allowed to reach a steady state. What should the relation between the capacitances of the capacitors be so that the potential difference between the points X and Y is 0? A. C1 by C4 is equal to C2 by C3. B. C1 by C2 is equal to C3 by C4. C. C1 plus C4 is equal to C3 plus C2. Or D. 1 by C1 plus 1 by C2 is equal to 1 by C3 plus 1 by C4. Now, a Maxwell inductance capacitance bridge, known as Maxwell bridge, is a modified version of the Wheatstone bridge which is used to measure the self-inductance of a circuit. A Maxwell bridge uses null deflection method, also known as the bridge method, to calculate unknown inductance in a circuit. So, from the figure, we can see that C1 by C4 is equal to C2 by C3 will give zero potential difference if this was a Wheatstone bridge, that is the Maxwell bridge. So, the correct answer is option A. Which one of the geometrices of the same mass and radius has the maximum moment of inertia? A. A thin circular disc. B. A thin circular ring. C. A thin spherical shell. Or D. A solid sphere. The moment of inertia of these various shapes are as follows. For a ring, it is mr square. For a disk, it is half mr square. For a shell, it is 2 by 3 mr square. And for a sphere, it is 2 by 5 mr square. When we arrange them from highest to lowest, we get the ring first, followed by the shell, followed by the disk, followed by the sphere. So the maximum moment of inertia is the thin circular ring. So the correct answer is B. A sound wave propagating in a solid block can have the following modes. A. One transverse only. B. One longitudinal only. C. Two transverse and one longitudinal only. Or D. One transverse and one longitudinal only. In solid, both the wave longitudinal as well as transverse can propagate, resulting in the transfer of energy. Transverse waves are the waves which are perpendicular to the wave motion. So at a given time, two transverse waves can propagate which are perpendicular to the direction of propagation. In longitudinal waves, the displacement of the medium is parallel to the propagation of the wave. So at a given time, only one wave is possible. So together, we can allow two transverse and one longitudinal wave at a time through a solid block. So the correct answer is option C. Light is incident from a medium with refractive index N is equal to 1.72 into vacuum. The smallest angle of incidence, which is measured with respect to the normal, for which light is not transmitted into vacuum, is approximately A 30 degree, B 45 degree, C 60 degree, or D 90 degree. If the light is coming from a denser medium to the boundary of a rarer medium with a particular angle of incidence, the rays may reflect back into the same medium. This is called as total internal reflection or TIR. So the angle of refraction is always 90 degree. This can be shown in the figure like so. The general formula for calculation is mu1 sine I, which is angle of incidence, is equal to mu2 sine R, which is angle of refraction, where mu1 is the denser medium refractive index and mu2 is the rarer medium refractive index. Here we know that R, that is the refracting angle, is 90 degree and sine R is equal to 1 because sine 90 is equal to 1. So sine I can be calculated as mu2 by mu1, which is 1 by 1.72, which is equal to 1, approximately equal to 1 by root 3. So I is approximately equal to 35.26, which is approximately equal to 30 degrees. So the correct answer is option A. A multimeter has an internal resistance of 0.5 ohms, while another has an internal resistance of 5 into 10 raised to 6 ohms. What use can the two multimeters be best put to? A. The first as an ammeter and the second as a voltmeter. B. Second as an ammeter and the first as a voltmeter. C. Both can be used as ammeters but not as voltmeters. Or D. Both can be used as voltmeters but not ammeters. The internal resistance of an ideal voltmeter is infinity, while that of an ideal ammeter is 0. So depending on these parameters, we can figure out that the voltmeter's internal resistance should be very high, while that of an ammeter should be very, very low, closer to 0, preferably. So from this, we can find out that the correct answer is option A, wherein we use the first one with 0.5 ohms as the ammeter and the second one, which is 5 into 10 raised to 6 ohms, as a voltmeter. The minimum number of NAND gates required to construct an OR gate is 1, 2, 3 or 4. In digital electronics, a NAND gate or a NOT AND gate is a logic gate which produces an output which is false if all its inputs are true. So we get a low output if all the inputs are high, and if any of the input is low, we get a high output. Now, when we talk about the OR gate, we get a high output if one or both of the inputs are high. And if neither input is high, we get a low output. Now, if you look in this picture, this is a NAND gate. In this, when we add 3 NAND gates as shown in this figure, we get an OR gate. As you can see, A dot B, the inverses of A dot B are again together inversed to get A plus B, which is the function of the OR gate. So the correct answer is option C. A circuit consists of a battery, a resistor, and a reverse bias Zener diode in series. The battery voltage is greater than the barrier voltage of the diode. Which of the following statements is correct? A. Increasing the resistance will increase the voltage drop across the diode. B. Increasing the resistance will decrease the voltage drop across the diode. C. Changing the resistance does not change the circuit current. Or D. Changing the resistance does not change the voltage drop across the diode. A Zener diode is a special type of rectifying diode that can handle breakdown due to reverse breakdown voltage without failing completely. After the breakdown, the current and the voltage remain the same in the diode. So, a change in resistance does not affect the voltage drop. So, the correct answer is option D. Changing the resistance does not change the voltage drop across the diode. A 1D infinite potential well of width L has ground state energy of E1. If the width is double to 2L, it now has a ground state energy of E2. Which of the following is true? A. E2 is equal to 1.41 into E1. B. E2 is equal to 4 into E1. C. E2 is equal to E1 by 2. Or D. E2 is equal to E1. In quantum mechanics, the particle in a box model, also known as infinite potential well or the infinite square well, describes a particle free to move in a small space surrounded by impenetrable barriers. This can be better understood from this diagram. So, in case of this infinite square well, when we double the width, we can fit two wave functions. As you can see, this is one wave function, this is two. So if the width is increased, we can fit two such wave functions if the width is doubled, that is. So from this we can find out that if the energy at the level 1 is h square by 8 ml square, the energy at level 2 or after increasing the width is 4 into E1. So the correct answer is option D. E2 is equal to 4 into E1. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to vEgyan YouTube channel for more such videos. Next up, we shall discuss the chemistry and biology sections of TIFR GS 2020 question paper. Thank you.